deployed Team Hurricane to execute the disinformation campaign against the People's Partnership Government. Mark Bassan says in this article he made several attempts to reach Tal Hanan in order for him to provide more proof to his allegations. However, despite several WhatsApp messages and calls, he did not reach Tal Hanan. Members of the media, if this story turns out to have any credibility, Prime Minister Dr. Rowley has questions to answer, and he has a responsibility to clear the air on these very serious and troubling statements in today's Express on page 6 and 7 respectively. This is extremely serious business, where it is alleged that a former opposition leader, in collusion with a high, deep pocket businessman in Trinidad and Tobago, connected with the PNM, the People's National Movement, conspired with this Israeli team to conduct a campaign of misinformation, disinformation, hacking the email accounts of the Prime Minister and her staffers in order to spread disinformation, misinformation, and destabilization of the Kamla Prasad Bisessa's administration. This is extremely serious. It is criminal if these allegations are true, because what it would have amounted to was the active destabilization and illegal undermining of a duly elected democratic government running the affairs of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We call on the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who brought email or email gate to the Parliament, to clear the air on this matter, because an Israeli is admitting that they were hired by a big, powerful businessman with deep financial pockets and connected to the People's National Movement to destabilize, undermine the Kamla Prasad Bisessa's administration. This is a very serious matter, and it is occupying 2 pages. The entire page 6 of today's Express and the entire page 7 of today's Express. We call on Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley to clear the air on this Express article. There's no doubt, as a result of this campaign of disinformation and misinformation that undermined and resulted in the People's Partnership government losing the 2015 general elections, because that was the purpose that they hired this group of Israelis to subvert, undermine, and overthrow legally the duly democratically elected government of the People's Partnership. May I remind Trinidad and Tobago that over 400,000 citizens voted for the People's Partnership in 2010 general elections. We will have much more to say on this matter in the coming hours and in the coming days and in the coming weeks. But we have brought it to the attention of the population and Trinidad and Tobago. And I ask members of the public to read pages 6 and 7 of today's Express newspapers. Members of the media, today, Trinidad and Tobago is under international scrutiny. Not only as a result of the subversion of the duly elected government, this is attracting the attention of the entire international community as we speak today. Because if this is true, we have a rogue government in power. A government that came into power using subversive methods and techniques to discredit and to undermine the duly elected government of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. So whilst we are under scrutiny for the subversion of our democratic process by the PNM government, according to this article, we also have a situation where reputable, renowned, international banks now have our country under scrutiny. For what? Breaching the EU laws on money laundering and the financing of terrorism. Could you imagine that our bank accounts at a bank called BNP Paribas Fortis, a reputable bank that operates in over 160 countries, they have over 200,000 or just under 200,000 employees, close our bank accounts in December of 2021. I say closed our bank accounts in 2021. And the Prime Minister never brought this matter to the attention of Trinidad and Tobago. They got an extension when it was closed to the following year. And when they closed down the accounts at BNP Paribas Fortis, they then went to another bank called BPOS Bank. And as they went there, within a few months, they were also calling by BPOS Bank and said, Trinidad and Tobago, close your accounts again. So it was not once, it was twice. Our bank accounts were closed at two reputable banks in Belgium. The capital of Belgium is Brussels. Our embassy is located in Brussels. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the media, when we speak from facts. When we talk about money laundering and the financing of terrorism, it is not us in the UNC who said that. It came from the lips of no other person than the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to quote in the Hansard record of the Parliament on the 24th of February 2023 under the segment or item Prime Minister's Questions. There's a question addressed to the Prime Minister on what is called the European Union's tax blacklist. It is posed by one Mr. Rodney Charles. It goes like this. In light of the government's recent announcement that Trinidad and Tobago is still on the European Union's tax blacklist, will the Prime Minister indicate whether this has led to the banks in Brussels, Belgium, closing or threatening to close Trinidad and Tobago's bank accounts? Here, our illustrious, distinguished Prime Minister, remember that time he was on the fourth leg of his COVID relay race. That was the fourth leg. So maybe he was not well. He was not well at that time. But hear what the illustrious Prime Minister told not only to Trinidad and Tobago, but told the entire world. I want to remind Trinidad and Tobago, our Parliament goes live and it streams on the World Wide Web. So in real time, everybody is seeing and hearing what you are saying and I am saying as members of Parliament. Here our Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, he's admitted, Madam Speaker, the closure of the bank accounts is not, I want to emphasize, is not as a result of the EU tax list, talking about the blacklisting. They were done as part of the EU countries' mitigation of anti-money laundering risk. May I repeat that? Our accounts, according to our Prime Minister, were closed by two banks in the capital of Belgium, Brussels, on the account of EU's countries' mitigation of anti-money laundering risk. The closing of the bank accounts of some diplomatic missions by Belgian banks came as a result of the application of the EU law on anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. You hear that? It came as a result of Trinidad and Tobago not observing, because that is what he's saying, the EU law on anti-money laundering and counter financing of terrorism. Countering rather, financing of terrorism. It goes on, that is the Prime Minister, and I'm quoting, recently, Bpost Bank of Brussels notified the embassy in Brussels that they will be closing their accounts. That is the embassy's account, Trinidad and Tobago's embassy at the bank, by February of 2023. February of this year, 2023. The embassy requested an extension of time to find a new account and was given an extension until May 2023 to do so. It's here. It is in the hands of. But you know, when you read this, no one would have believed that the Prime Minister, who is the head of government and the head of the cabinet and must be in the know, he never on one occasion mentioned that our accounts of our embassy was closed in December of 2021 by the former bankers BNP Paribas Fortis. He never said it. So on two occasions, our bank accounts at our embassy, located at two banks, were closed. They tell a sovereign democratic government, an embassy represents the state, represents Trinidad and Tobago. A private bank is calling you in, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, based on your embassy located in Belgium. The capital of Belgium is Brussels. Come, take your money and go. We don't want your account. Why would a bank do so? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to refer you to an article in the Newsday, dated Thursday, March the 2nd, 2023. Look at it. Where a second government official, in this instance, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, confirming that these accounts were closed by the two banks in question. So Amory Brown, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, is telling Trinidad and Tobago and confirming what the Prime Minister told Trinidad and Tobago in the Parliament, that these two bank accounts at two different banks at different periods were closed, and they were told, take your money and go. Why would a bank tell a sovereign government, take your money and go? I know, Dr. Seecharan, banks looking to get clients, to make profits on their savings, on their investment. I know about banks running clients and running customers, unless it is serious. Very, very serious. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very serious. It is troubling. It is disturbing. We therefore ask the Prime Minister to tell Trinidad and Tobago what were the real reasons for closing, for these banks in Brussels closing our embassy's accounts. I don't think he had to answer again, members of the media. He has already answered. He said in Parliament it was to mitigate money laundering, because we were in breach of the EU laws on anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism. That is what the Prime Minister said. So the question has to now be asked. Who in the government is using our diplomatic pouches or diplomatic bags to launder money and to finance terrorism? Who is doing that? Has the government launched an independent inquiry into this development? Because when May arrives and your account is closed at B Post Bank, where are we going to bank? Trinidad and Tobago is now a pariah in that country called Brussels. I am predicting, we are predicting, that unless we get to the bottom of this matter, no bank in Brussels will open another account, and if they do open it, they will close it again. Because there is something seriously wrong, and the government needs to give the population a full, comprehensive statement on this development. When the government could accuse itself, as the Prime Minister has accused his government, of money laundering and using our bank accounts to engage in money laundering, that is a serious criminal matter. And we call on the Commissioner of Police earlier here with Christopher to launch an immediate probe into this money laundering matter involving our embassy accounts at two banks that shut down and about to shut down our accounts in Brussels. We need a probe. We need an investigation into this matter. It is very, very serious. And by the way, Mr. Prime Minister, I saw in this same article, ladies and gentlemen, where Minister Brown, Minister Brown, right? I saw in the same article, look at here, where Minister Brown says he's talking to CARICOM. What CARICOM have to do with money laundering and the closure of your accounts? They can't help you. You're talking about U.S. authorities and Maxine Waters, a congresswoman. What can they do to help Trinidad and Tobago? You're talking to the African, Pacific and Caribbean Secretariat. What can they do to help us? Is that a cover? Is it a cop-out? What is it? What is the role of the Ministry of Finance under Colin Imbert in this whole matter? I am a former employee of the Foreign Service when I first left school. And I can tell you, they have, when I was there, standards were very, very high. And as I recall, every year an auditor would have been sent from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, at that time it was called External Affairs, to audit the accounts of our embassies. Has that been done by the Minister of Finance? Has that been done by the Auditor General? Has that been done by the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs? What is going on? And then we hear the classic now, members of the media, is that we are told by Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown, that only upon opening their new account at B Post Bank, they learned that BNP, Fortis, had consummated an agreement in which they bought out 100% shares or shareholding of B Post Bank. Only after they opened the account, they discovered that the very first bank, BNP, that kicked them out, had now bought over the bank that they have now opened an account in. And that said bank told them, you have until the end of May to shut your account class. But you know, I went on the World Wide Web and I did a search on the amalgamation. They call it a partnership agreement or model. I know what that showed. Since December of 2021, the authority in Belgium, they call it the Competition Authority, and the Regulatory Authority had given the green light to both BNP Paribas Fortis and B Post Bank to merge. So you want to tell me you're an embassy in the capital called Brussels, and a bank as renowned and reputable as BNP going to take over 100% ownership of B Post Bank? The embassy didn't know. Come on, Dr. Brown. The embassy did not know. Since 2021, December, they got the green light to merge. But you came now in the month of December or sometime around there in 2022 to open an account. And by February, they tell you close it. By the end of February. And you beg on the knees for an extension. That is a hostile and unfriendly development. And I want to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You're talking to Maxine Waters, you said. Contacting Maxine Waters. You're talking to the US authorities. You're talking to the African, Pacific, and Caribbean Secretariat. You're talking to the developing countries. I would like to ask Minister Brown, has your government, did the government of Trinidad and Tobago have a meeting with the Belgium government? Because you are in Belgium and a private bank has shut down your embassy accounts not once but twice. Have you spoken with the Belgium authorities to find out what is going on? Why are my accounts being closed? This came out on Thursday. Thursday this came out. And no mention was made in this article by Dr. Amy Brown that any discussions were held, any audience was sought with the Belgium government, so that the Belgium government could be apprised of this situation. Members of the media, I just want to say finally, our country continue to be under the international microscope. The latest one is this. Every one of us in the media would know about the UK Guardian. It is over 200 years old. It operates in over 160 countries. They have an article, Trouble in Paradise. Corruption in the Caribbean being normalized. And when you read this article, 60% or 70% of this article is about Trinidad and Tobago under the PNM. In this article, the author says that average politicians with average wealth before they came into government have now become millionaires and billionaires. And how have they become millionaires and billionaires? This article is saying through corruption, bribes, kickbacks, insider influence, contracts, using proxies, that is their wives, their friends, and their families to get contracts. And that is how today I say, and they have to unite. I say, and they have to unite. Every government minister is a millionaire. Today, everyone in the PNM, every government minister in the PNM under this Rowley government has become a millionaire. And I think if we do a proper criminal forensic audit on the net value of the Prime Minister, he might fall in the category of a billionaire. I would like Keith Rowley, to tell Trinidad and Tobago what is his net worth. Because this gentleman who wrote this article is saying under your administration, you have spawned millionaires and billionaires. That is what this article is saying. And you know what they have also done? They have corrupted democracy in our country. And they're moving towards autocracy. So what they doing? They're normalizing corruption, procurement fraud, where they have legalized thieving in Trinidad and Tobago is a reality under this rowdy mafia gangster type criminal administration. They have legalized thieving by refusing to proclaim and operationalize the procurement law, public procurement law. That is what they have done. And just as how they have normalized corruption, they want to normalize mediocrity. You can imagine in Trinidad and Tobago, our Calypsonians, when the British were here, used their art form to criticize the colonialists against oppression and exploitation of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Under the PNM, under Keith Christopher Rowley's government, they have now censored Calypsonians. They're telling Errol Fabian, don't make any jokes about the PNM in any show that you are going to be MCing. And Lady Gypsy, don't come and sing your song about political cemetery. So the PNM has now used Calypso to oppress the Calypsonians. Calypsonians under colonialism used Calypso to liberate Trinidad and Tobago by attacking the colonialists. Our modern slave masters, led by Rowley, Rowley and his gang of thieves view Trinidadians and Tobagonians as chattel, as their property. They can do what you want, when they want, and how they want. And I'll give you a final example of this. The Minister of Finance comes to Parliament last Tuesday, and we raised the question about falling oil gas prices. And we want him to tell us how is falling gas prices impacted on our revenue? How will it impact on our expenditure? And how will it impact on our overall economy? Well, Imbert believes that he owns the resources of Trinidad and Tobago. Let me remind Colin Imbert and that gang called the PNM. The resources of oil and gas are owned by the citizens and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And you, Imbert, has only been given temporary leave to manage those resources. You know what like Dr. Seecharan? You bring in somebody into your property to pick mangoes so you can make a living because you're under pressure. But the person who you asked to pick your mangoes, he not telling you what price he could not sell your mangoes at or for. That is what Imbert told us in the Parliament on Tuesday. We asked the man, you budget at $6 US per MMBTU. We are reading where the price has collapsed to $2.77. You come and tell Trinidad and Tobago, okay, you ain't saying what we're talking about. We no longer use Henry Hub. We use what is called a weighted average or basket of gas prices. And the gas prices made up of Henry Hub, something called NBP, called National Balancing Point, and JKM, Japan Korea Marker. And he said they use that to get an average when they are selling our LNG abroad. Up to now, Imbert has not told Trinidad and Tobago if we get in higher than the 6 US, lower than the 6 US. You know what this new slave master tells his property, the chattels that they have in Trinidad and Tobago? He tells us, wait until the slave master comes to the Parliament at the end of April. Only at the end of April will I tell you how much we are getting for our LNG through taxes and royalties. He doesn't want to share that information. He's like the man who you invite into your yard to pick your mangoes, to sell them, and he will not tell you how much he's selling your mangoes for. That is a slave mentality. That is the arrogance, contempt, disrespect, contumely that Colin Imbert has for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because they see us as slaves on a plantation, and they are the property owners. They are the new slave masters. They are the slave owners of Trinidad and Tobago, and we are chattel. Don't ask me nothing. Well, I want to tell Imbert, you could turn your back on the people as you did in Parliament. Not wait back. When I speak on behalf of the people. You can turn your back on the people of Trinidad and Tobago by your arrogance, your contempt, your disrespect for the people. But you will never be able to turn back the people. Turn your back on them, but you will never be able to turn back the people. It is forward ever, backward never. It is forward ever, backward never. It is forward ever, backward never. Ladies and gentlemen, I pause at this time, and we are open to any questions that you may wish to raise at this time. And before you ask, I want to express solidarity on behalf of our party with the people of East Port of Spain, who were uprooted by Camille Robinson Regis and that gang of oppressors running this country and treated like dogs, treated like slaves, and they brought the police to ensure that these people vacate their places that they have occupied for 60 years. What a shameless episode Trinidad and Tobago witnessed. Well, the United National Congress has intervened, and we have sent a team of lawyers to East Port of Spain to intervene in this matter. We will not sit idly by and allow the PNM to just simply ride roughshod over the citizens of this country, even though they are from East Port of Spain and they voted for the PNM. They are citizens of our republic and they have rights. And we are going to defend their rights and freedoms. Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Senator Wademark, I will first begin with you. As it relates to today's Express article, we know that around the world there have been issues and discussions, debates even, as it relates to deep fakes, to artificial intelligences, and of course, as mentioned by you prior, cybercrime. Do you think that Trinidad and Tobago is paying enough attention to this? And do you think that there needs to be greater legislative intervention as it relates to how we as a country address such issues?
I believe that if we are living in a modern world, as we are, and we are experiencing the fourth industrial revolution, whatever we have to do to keep up with the times, we have to do. So if it means that we have to bring about legislative changes without violating the rights and freedoms of our people, I support your question. However, you cannot use your offices, as the PNM allegedly has done, to undermine a legitimately elected, democratically elected government in our nation. That is a crime, and that is a cyber crime. So you have asked whether the time has come for us to adjust the legislation to reflect the emerging reality. We began that exercise years ago, but the PNM brought legislation to take away your rights as a journalist and to say to you, if you get sources of information that you print in your newspaper, you must reveal those sources to them. And if you fail to reveal them, you are going to jail and they're fining you. We will never support such legislation. We will support cyber crime legislation that is in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago and does not breach or violate the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That is why, member, up to this time, we do not have up-to-date cyber crime legislation to reflect what you have just raised on our statute books, because they brought legislation to enslave the country, and we will have no part of it. And the press came out. Sheila Rampersad was then president of MAT, and she came before a joint select committee of which I was a member, and they castigated the government. They want no part of that. They called the government to remove that offensive and obnoxious clause that was going to inhibit the freedom of the press in our country. So that is why we have no up-to-date cybercrime legislation in our country as we speak.
In terms of the opposition's response to this, what action, if any, will the opposition be looking to take? Or we know that you called for a commission of inquiry into the matter, but what else is the opposition going to look to do to address this issue?
You remember, we only saw this thing for the first time in the papers. I only saw it for the first time in the papers today, if I may say. I have given a preliminary position on behalf of the party. The party will dive or take a deep dive into this matter in the coming hours. I want to invite you to listen or to attend our Monday night People's Forum, which is taking place in, is it Endeavour? Chaguanas, right? Chaguanas East. Before you leave, I'll give you the exact location. Our illustrious leader, distinguished leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Visasa, will no doubt address this matter along with other lawyers who probably will be interested in that meeting tomorrow. So we will give more information and in terms of the actions that we intend to take, the measures that we intend to pursue to deal with this criminal behavior and conduct that is alleged to have taken place by the PNM against a democratically elected government. If this turns out to be true, this is tantamount to treason. This is treasonous. That kind of conduct, to hack the mail of a prime minister and to engage in a campaign of disinformation by planting negative stories in the newspaper, by having an army of personnel on social media, just spewing and feeding deliberate misinformation is a crime. And as you rightly said, we have no legislation in place to deal with these matters.
But Senator Mark, isn't this something that the world is also grappling with? To co-tie with the issue Dr. Seecharan raised this morning. I mean, just about 2 or 3 days ago, we read about the battle against disinformation as it related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So how do we, again, the article would have illustrated that it is an international matter, as it's an Israeli team that is involved.
You remember, I want to just draw the imagination.
Sure.
Dr. Rory and his gang accused this opposition when we were in government of bringing on a group called Cambridge Analytica. And they went all out to see if they could prosecute whoever they could prosecute. They set up a joint select committee. The police went all over the world looking for a pinky fella. They can't find that pinky fella at all. They went as far as the United Kingdom looking for this pinky man who made all this allegation and produced a book on the whole thing. They can't find him at all. I'm trying to tell you, even though these things are happening all over the world, the PNM gave the impression to us and the Trinidad and Tobago that it is not a party to this kind of campaign of disinformation and misinformation. It is only us in the UNC who have done it. And look what we are seeing in the papers today, where the PNM have a deep pocket financier who is connected closely with the leadership of the PNM to finance and brought into this country, or they probably operated from outside of the country. I haven't read the article thoroughly. In order to do what? Destabilize, undermine, subvert a democratically elected government. And I am saying these are matters that must attract the attention of the police, as it is and will attract the international community as to the nature and character of the regime that we currently have in office leading the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So while they become billionaires and millionaires, poor people are suffering in this country. And the reason why I said earlier in my statement, a major economic and social storm is brewing in Trinidad and Tobago, and you are just seeing the tip of the iceberg. It is manifested in uncontrollable criminality. Murders. A mother of 3 children, a 2-month baby, have to go on their knees to beg criminals who came to exact a tax on this lady who is now trying to establish a business. And when they couldn't get the tax, they murdered her. That is where Trinidad and Tobago has reached under this criminal, gangster, mafia type, thieving PNM government. That is where we have reached. So Trinidad and Tobago, my dear, we have to recognize that where we are today, we cannot continue. We are going to be in serious trouble. It is inequality of wealth and income. It is crime going through the roof. And now you have wide-scale corruption, as I just indicated to you in this article, trouble in paradise. Who getting rich? The PNM. And you know what he said for in this article? Business and the politicians have now captured the parliament, so they're bringing laws for their interests, and they are now capturing law enforcement. This is in the article. This is going all over the world. Just as how the embassy accounts have gone all over the world. You know what impact that is going to have on foreign investors? A foreign investor wants to come here and he's reading this article, which was only published last evening, the 4th of March. I think it's the 4th of March. Yes, Saturday the 4th of March. Last evening. This one all over the world. They operate in 180 countries. Everybody's seen this article. And then you have the banks in Brussels saying that we close their accounts. And the Prime Minister says money laundering and financing of terrorism. Where are we going? Where are we going? Trinidad and Tobago is heading for disaster of epic proportions under this criminal administration. All they are doing is thieving and becoming rich, and the poor people are becoming poorer, and then they come in to oppress you more. New rates for TNT, new rates for WASA, property tax, and you working on 2012 salary. This is a government. You know what the slaves used to do with these kind of people during slavery? They fought to get rid of them. They fought for their liberation and their freedom because they could not take the oppression of the slave masters. We have in Kid Rowley and his gang in the PNM modern day slave masters. And I'm calling the people of Trinidad and Tobago, like our ancestors, to liberate yourselves from these modern slave masters. They are suffering us. So while they are prospering, we the people are suffering.
And Senator Wademark, my last question to you is, you indicated that the party stands in solidarity with the people of East Port of Spain, and that a team of lawyers would have been sent there to assist the people of East Port of Spain. When was that team sent?
This morning.
Okay. How many comprise that team or compose
3.
that team? Do you care to share their names, please?
I know it was led by Dinesh Rambali.
And more will be said on this, of course.
Yes, and we are meeting with them tomorrow as well.
Meeting with the East Port of Spain residents?
Yes, of course.
What time, sir?
Well, we will inform you as I go along, because I want to get some more information from Dinesh, because I was not here this morning. As you know, I came here.
Okay.
So I'll have to get further clarification. But we cannot allow. You see, the PNM wants to create an East moorings. I want to warn the people of East Port of Spain. Just as how we are West moorings, Rowley and his gang want to create East moorings. So what they want to do is to get rid of the people. They lied to the residents and told them on Downton Street, look, we are going to renovate and build new quarters for you, lower down Piccadilly Street. As soon as we complete those, we will then invite you to move from these buildings that you are in and occupy those new buildings. You know what has happened? No new buildings have been built. And you know what they are doing? They have literally forced the people to go to Pinal, to Couva, to Princestown, to Chaponas. You have children going to school in Port of Spain, Tranquility. They're going to QRC. They're going to Fatima College. And their jobs are in Port of Spain. And this criminal administration have no sensitivity. They are insensitive to the needs of their own constituents, that they bring police to run these people. And they went and they broke down their windows. They forced them to remove all their belongings. Emily, I spoke to a lady called Mrs. Mendoza. She told me she has been living there and her family for 60 years, almost 2 generations. And this is the conduct of the PNM against these poor people. You bring heavy guns to remove them. We condemn that action. We are not saying that people can't move or should move for redevelopment, but don't put them Princestown. They ain't know about Princestown. Build, put them in, and then mash up to rebuild again. That is not their intention. They want that part of Port of Spain for their friends and their families. So they want the bourgeoisie to become the new tenants of East Port of Spain. That is what this thing is about. And they're kicking out these people who have labored and toiled to build Port of Spain. And yes, ma'am.
Dr. Seecharan, to you. You would have mentioned, as it relates to Carnival 2023 and of course the pandemic, you would have done a correlation of the figures as it relates to Brazil's Carnival and Trinidad and Tobago's Carnivals. Of course, we know that there are no official figures as yet as it relates to Carnival 2023. But do you think, in your view, do you think that it is indeed the pandemic that would have, as some people might have said or suggested, that would have led to the kind of carnival that we had? Or do you think that it was just a transitionary carnival, in that it was 2 years?
I think it was 3 factors. The first being obviously the high levels of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Many of the persons in these foreign countries that have to travel here would get a travel advisory from their government before they actually book a ticket to Trinidad and Tobago. So that would be the first obstacle that they would face. Then you have the actual fact that a British citizen was actually shot in her ankle when the 2 young men were unfortunately murdered by assassins on Arapita Avenue just a couple days before Carnival, Monday and Tuesday. Secondly, we have the fact that we haven't managed COVID-19 to the best of our abilities. And truth be told, there's a lot more that Minister Diansen could do. I went into the fact that almost 50% of our population is unvaccinated. So to the discerning foreigner that would like to travel to Trinidad and Tobago, we have hundreds of thousands of persons here that are unvaccinated. We also have, we don't have the best drugs and equipment here available for someone that would be accustomed to a high level of medical and healthcare facilities, like for example in the United States, Canada, and in Europe. We don't have Plaxovid. So should you contract COVID-19 here, and let's say you're 50 or 60 years old with comorbidities, we don't have that life-saving drug that you can get in every single pharmacy in the United States and in England and in Canada. So that would be a concern for many coming in here, as well as we have the threat of lockdowns. Many have forgotten lockdowns, but many remember them as well. You know, we had one of the most draconian lockdowns in the global community. And for many persons, they cannot enter Trinidad and Tobago, and we as well cannot leave Trinidad and Tobago. So you have a foreigner knowing that this happened here in Trinidad and Tobago. We did not even allow our citizens that were born in Trinidad and Tobago to return to our country when we had high cases of COVID-19 here in Trinidad and Tobago. So someone would be thinking, what if I come to Trinidad and Tobago and then Prime Minister Rowley says, as of midnight tonight, because we have 1,000 cases yesterday, I'm going to lock down this country. So, there's a number of factors. Senator Mark went into the crime ad nauseum, and all of these would have obviously played a part. When you have a number of rival carnivals around the world, as I said, you have the Brazilian carnival, and for those that would have preferred our flavor of carnival with soca music and chutney music and whatnot, you now have the Miami carnival, you have a carnival in Canada, in Toronto, as well as you have carnivals in the other Caribbean islands, in CARICOM region as well. So we are behind the ball, and Carnival has definitely fallen under the Rowley administration, and there's a lot of work to be done. And the problem we have with this Rowley administration is that his ministers are not accountable to anything. So even though we may be falling back and we're saying, no, we had no soca monarch this year, or our carnival is falling back, the vendors are saying they did not get sales, they made no money in Port of Spain, and his ministers are not accountable. So what is going to be the difference next year? And this is for every single issue, not only carnival, this is for flooding, this is for crime, this is for the Ministry of Works, this is for social development. This happens across the board. There's no accountability, and no one is held to explain why this happened and what will be done in the future to prevent it from happening again.
And Dr. Seecharan, you also addressed the issue of perception as it relates to the vaccines, etc., as well as NCDs. And we know that the Ministry of Health would have had campaigns as it relates to vaccination, as well as NCDs.
Yeah. So
you are saying then that those campaigns were ineffective?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. And many persons, I speak to many persons in my constituency, many elderly persons that have said under no condition they're going to become vaccinated. And when you ask them why, they're reading on their phone about these mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer vaccine, they're reading about the Sinopharm vaccine being not effective, and all these sorts of things. And there are different types of vaccines that the rest of the world has used to combat these persons that may not want to be vaccinated. So if your argument is I don't want no mRNA vaccine, there's another type of vaccine, there's the Novavax vaccine, right? If the Sinopharm vaccine is not your particular type of vaccine, well, bring on another type of vaccine, right? We have no more AstraZeneca in the country, we have no more Pfizer. All of these vaccines have expired to be destroyed in Trinidad and Tobago. We currently only have the Sinopharm vaccine, and we have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. As I said before, the licensing body that licensed the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has put severe restrictions on that vaccine and has actually issued a warning label on that vaccine, and are telling persons and are telling doctors not to prescribe that vaccine unless there are no other vaccines available in your community. That is how dangerous that vaccine is, right? In years to come, it will be banned. I promise you that, right? There are over 100 persons that have died after taking that vaccine. Healthy persons, and this is not misinformation, right? That is an actual clinical side effect that happens roughly 1 in 250,000 doses of that vaccine, right? So we need more vaccines. We only operating with Sinopharm, that those vaccines are going to waste away. We have hundreds of thousands of them. We have the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. We might as well just go and sink them in the sea somewhere, right? They are totally useless, right? So we need some other vaccines. Bring on some Pfizer, bring on some AstraZeneca, bring on some Novavax, and allow persons who want to be boosted. My parents are both over the age of 70 years old with comorbidities, and I want them to be boosted, right? But I don't want them to be boosted with what we have here in Trinidad. That is my personal view. My 3 younger brothers are doctors, right? So for us to boost them, we have to fly them to the States to get boosted, right? And that is the case with many other citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as many who are not vaccinated. So currently we are dealing with the pandemic of the unvaccinated, And Minister Diyal Singh is a poor example of a Minister of Health. And I have given him suggestions over and over and over, and he refused to implement any of them. And I have realized when I give a suggestion, it is not acted upon. And sometimes I prefer not to tell him, so that hopefully it would happen and hopefully it would be implemented. Because there's a policy within this PNM government that should the opposition give a suggestion, they are not going to act on it because they don't want the appearance of having to listen to the opposition. And that is where we are right now in Trinidad today.
Okay, thank you very much, members of the media, for being here this morning into this afternoon. On behalf of the leader of the opposition, we'd like to thank all of the media for being here and for all our listeners and viewers throughout the world who would have followed this Sunday press conference. I would like to invite all of you to know that we are having our Monday night meeting in the constituency of Seecharan East. Julie, is it at the Endeavour Hindu School?
Yes.
It is at by there from the media, the Endeavour Hindu School. You'll have our very important Monday night People's Meeting, People's Forum meeting, or budget report exercise being conducted, led by our illustrious and distinguished political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesla. So on behalf of our party, we'd like to thank you for being here, and we wish you a very safe journey to your respective places. Good afternoon.
This Monday, get ready for UNC's Monday Night Forum, the United National Congress. Monday Night Forum. This Monday, 6th of March, get ready for the United National Congress Monday Night Forum at the Endeavour Hindu School, Shogonas. Come out in large numbers. Let's discuss the real issues facing the nation. It's time for action, not distraction. Monday Night Forum, Endeavour Hindu School, 7 p.m. See you there. See you there. See you there.